Happy Wednesday, fighters. Happy Wednesday. How are you guys doing on today? Today is hump day. I think it's one of the hardest days for us to get through, right? But we made it. We made it here on today. If you guys are on here or when you get on here, make sure that you are dropping your purple hearts in honor of my mother. She is the reason for the season. I wouldn't be who I was if my mother wasn't such an amazing woman, right? So make sure that we always honor Francine Neal with dropping those purple hearts. Hey, Tati. Thank you for tuning in, cousin. Thank you for those purple hearts. Today is our fourth episode of Shining Light on Domestic Violence. And it is a topic that is very near and dear to myself and my family. And so this is my way of shining light on the thing that I believe many women deal with, but we deal with it silently. So just as we do on Sunday nights, I'm going to play my motivational video for us, Maddie JT Stepotnik. And no matter what it is that we're talking about on the silent fight, we always want to make sure that we don't forget about humanity. No matter what it is that we do, no matter how much money we have, no matter what our jobs are, no matter what we look like, if we are not able to connect to each other and get to the hearts of each other, I believe that humanity is actually doomed. That is actually my fear, because there was no way that we were created to just hate each other. Oh God, you got Tracy May, one of my favorite guest speakers. I don't know who that is, but yes, Tracy May is absolutely amazing. So let me get our video playing and make sure you guys are dropping those purple hearts if you can hear it. Please, please, and thank you.
For our world, we need to stop. Just stop. Stop for a moment before anybody says or does anything that may hurt anyone else. We need to be silent. Just silent. Silent for a moment before we forever lose the blessing of songs that grow in our hearts. We need to notice. Just notice. Notice for a moment before the future slips away into ashes and dust of humility. Stop, be silent, and notice. In so many ways, we are the same. Our differences are unique treasures. We are a mosaic of gifts to nurture, to offer, to accept. We need to be, just be. Be for a moment, kind and gentle, innocent and trusting, like children and lambs, never judging or vengeful, like the judging and vengeful. And now let us pray, differently yet together, before there is no earth, no life, no chance for peace.
Yeah, that always does something to me. It always does something to me. Hey, sister, thank you for those purple hearts. This is our fourth episode of Shining Light on Domestic Violence. And I'm going to bring Miss Tracy May on because she is another amazing panelist that I came across in one of my networking groups. And I put up a post stating that I wanted to do a show about domestic violence. I had so many responses. I just said, let's just do a mini series. I didn't want to leave anybody out. So are you ready, Tracy? Let me get you on here.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me here. And oh gosh, that was so beautiful. That was
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having this and for having the space and being present about this very, very important subject and just, making it available that we can all share our history and our perspective and hopefully offer some hope and a way for people to start recognizing the hidden abuse and to start taking the steps to stop experiencing it.
Stop experiencing it.
Yeah.
That is the purpose of this. It should not be so normal. It shouldn't be so normal. You know, when you hear of, I'm gonna let you do your introduction in a second, but that's why I like to do this live because when it comes, it just comes, right? Um, it shouldn't be normal for you either hear when a woman says that a guy hit her, it's what did you do to him, right?
Right.
Or you ready for it? How long have you guys been together?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I read an article the other day about a gentleman who's supposedly um, advocating for children in domestic violence situations for the courts to decide if they should stay with their dad or not be able to see their dad or whoever the abuser is. But, most of the time it is a man, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But he actually said in this article, like, well, she had 5 women, or 5 children. How could it have been that bad? Why did she stay so long? And that just exemplifies how our society as a whole does not understand that abuse is like it sucks the life out of you. There's trauma bonding, there's cognitive dissonance, there's peptide addiction, there's all of these things that contribute to keep us stuck. And yet, people that have never been through this want to judge and decide that, oh, it must not really be that bad. But it really is that bad. And so it's really important for us to start standing up to how bad it really is.
I wanna touch on that because I heard that before. I worked in a psychiatric facility. I'm glad you said that. Before we get started, so the ladies who have been coming on this week, they have been saying the fighter's pledge before we started our show. And I usually sit at the end, but I actually like that. So do you mind saying the fighter's pledge? So I'll say it and then you repeat after me because you are officially one of our fighters.
All right. I'm
Are
up
you
for that.
ready?
Yes.
Let's go. I have a voice in this world and I deserve to be heard.
I have a voice in this world and I deserve to be heard.
I have an obligation to fight for all those around me,
I have an obligation to fight for all of those around me.
but most importantly, I have an obligation to fight for myself.
But most important, I have an obligation to fight for myself.
I am officially a fighter.
I am officially a fighter. Yay! I love
Welcome,
that.
welcome to the fight. Welcome to the fight. Now, you were saying about trauma bonding.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke about that several times on my show because that's what we do. For people that don't understand what trauma bonding is, this is what it is. It's a conversation. Hey Tracy, I was with this guy for 15 years and he used to fight me all the time. He used to cheat on me. He didn't take care of his responsibilities. He had other girls call my house and then Tracy would respond with what it was that she dealt with. And then we will find the common ground. And this is how we are bonding. Correct?
Right. Trauma bond is when you're bonded to this other person through the trauma,
Mm-hmm.
through the cycles of the trauma. So
Mm-hmm.
there's love bombing and there's hoovering and there's devaluing and discarding. And so we go through those phases in a toxic, abusive, or narcissistic relationship. And we get bonded to the high of the love bomb of the love bombing and the hoovering, and then we kind of survive through the discard and like the gaslighting and the abuse and the blaming. And so trauma bond is an emotional reaction to the trauma that you're experiencing every day, and you get attached to it, and that's why it's a bond.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I had said after my last relationship, no more trauma bonding. Because what it does is it makes you believe that this person was created for you, because God wouldn't have sent this person to me because he's dealt with exactly what it was that I dealt with. And I know that we was put together so that we can heal each other, correct?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the empath can believe that, because usually a narcissist and an empath get together. They're on opposite ends of that spectrum, where the narcissist has no empathy and no real caring for anyone or ability to self-reflect. And the empath has a lot of caring, too much empathy, and, cares too much, on a level of, what's healthy. And so you've got two people on the opposite spectrum. And if you understand anything about wounded self and the inner child and things like that, you understand that the person, the abuser, the narcissist, the toxic person, that they're wounded. And so you feel like, oh, we've come together to heal both of our wounds, right? And that is true, but it doesn't mean you have to stay in the relationship. It means you can heal as soon as you figure out you're being trauma bonded and leave.
Yeah, you can heal from it, especially when you listen to people that have training in this and you really just pay attention, because the characteristics are true, aren't they?
They are so, like, when I talk to women who are in toxic relationships, it's the same thing all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're blaming, they're yelling, they're raging, they're giving them a silent treatment. They're blaming, they're bullying, they're cheating, they're lying. They are accusing you of cheating when you haven't been cheating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so much more to abuse than just the physical aspect. And so many times when people think of abusive relationships, they think of physical abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the emotional, the verbal, the psychological, the financial, and the sexual abuse are just as debilitating as physical abuse, if not more, because you're really scarred in your, the inside your, your inner. Your self-confidence is destroyed, your self-esteem. A lot of women come to me telling me they feel broken and alone and invisible. They're not heard or seen. And so sometimes it starts on a very low level, so we don't catch it. And then we get kind of conditioned to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we keep putting up with it, or not consciously. Like when I say put up with it or tolerate it, I never mean we're choosing it or picking it or even aware we're doing it. We're doing it subconsciously from the love patterns usually we learned in our childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just bringing those things into our adult relationships. And because that feels comfortable on a subconscious level, and we know how to manage it on a subconscious level, it feels safe, even though it's not safe. And so we get stuck in these relationships, and there's so much crazy making with the gaslighting and the circular conversations and the crazy making conversations, that we get so stuck that we can't make sense of anything. And then we start to doubt and second guess ourselves. We feel like we're at fault. And, and so we are so focused on this person that's abusing us, trying to get them to stop being angry, to get them to change, to fix them, that our whole world just gets turned upside down. And we don't have the skills to deal with that, because we're not taught anything about having relationships as kids.
Mm-hmm. Because kids shouldn't have relationships. Let's talk about that.
Kids shouldn't have to deal with abusive relationships in their families. That's where they're supposed to be safe.
Yes. They're supposed to be safe. But what I was going to is, I'm 38. And I know women that are my age, and that's the same age as my children, they glorify their children going to date. And I say, you shouldn't push your kids out there on the dating scene, because look, we're in our 30s or late 20s at the time and almost 40 now, and we're still trying to get it together.
Yeah,
Children
exactly.
commit suicide because their boyfriends or girlfriends cheated on them,
Yes,
right? So
right.
we need to be nurturing their minds so that they can know how to deal with these kinds of things before it ever happens.
Right. And that's the problem. Like you and I, and many other women, we grew up in a really dysfunctional environment,
Mm-hmm.
at home. And we didn't have the skills to know how to love ourselves, to parent ourselves, to set boundaries,
Now,
to really,
I was different.
okay.
I was different. I was going against. So the women in my family, this is the vision for the women in my family. The women in my family are either already married or they're with the man that they had a child with. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So longevity, it's what's in my family.
Right.
So I thought that when I had a child by this guy, I thought, because that was my longest relationship, it was the one that I dealt with the most. That's why I used that one. I thought that I was supposed to stay. I just thought that I was supposed to stay. I thought God gave me this baby by this guy. We're supposed to be together. I don't care what anybody says. We're supposed to
Right.
be together. You understand what I'm saying? So
Right.
even though we have healthy relationships at home, sometimes you have to speak, or most all the time, you have to speak to your children to their level of understanding. So back in the day, it was stay in a child's place.
Right.
Stay in a child's place, right? So we go into the world and we don't know how to react to certain situations.
Right. And that's what I'm getting at, is that the love patterns that we develop in our childhood,
Mm-hmm.
they don't prepare us to have a healthy relationship as an
Mm-hmm.
adult, and they don't prepare us to pass down healthy behaviors and attributes to our children, because
Yeah.
we don't have them. And
Yeah.
so almost always what happens is we go through life, and most women end up in a long-term relationship with someone who's abusive, and then finally once their kids leave, they might leave it because they're like, oh, I didn't want to break up my family, right? There's so many reasons why, people stay in toxic relationships. But, that's the thing. Like, we didn't know how to parent our kids differently than how we were parented. And I know I tried, because I grew up with an alcoholic mother and an alcoholic stepfather. And so I didn't want alcohol in my life and all of that, but I didn't know I was codependent. I didn't know that some of the things I was doing was being overprotective with my children because I wanted to keep them safe, right? Because from my perspective, I'm being a different parent than my parent, but I still had these toxic patterns of the limiting beliefs that I'm not good enough, I don't matter, I don't deserve good things. A lot of those things are just, they happen to us even if we're not in toxic families,
Yes.
just by society and just by accidental bad parenting, right? Or accidental
Yes.
hurtful things,
Yes.
those things can create those situations too. But most women who are in toxic relationships, the vast majority have experienced toxic childhoods.
Most.
Yeah.
Most have.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first got into my situation and I was disrespected, I'm like, wait,
Right.
but I was coached, literally.
Yes.
I was coached into believing that that was okay.
Yes. Yes. We witnessed that. Even if our parents had a long-term relationship, we witnessed the not having boundaries, maybe with each other or just one of the parents, right? And then that parent having the same thing with us, violating our boundaries and
Mm-hmm.
not knowing what is healthy, and what is okay to accept and not accept, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we didn't learn that, and especially if we weren't in, a healthy family, and we're not taught that in school,
Right.
right? And so
Because
all
what are we taught in school? I talk to my kids I talk to my kids school all the time. When the kids get into fights, what do? You go over there, Kevin. You go over there, Messiah. Now it's just building this tension.
Right.
We don't teach our kids to talk about it.
So
So go ahead.
Right. We don't teach them how to resolve conflicts in a healthy way.
We do not. And I always ask the teachers and the counselors, whoever the disciplinarian is, I said, clearly these children don't have a problem with coming to school and doing their work.
Right.
So why is an altercation at school that they have to sit in a classroom and do work all day? Why don't they have to do something together?
Yes.
Does that make sense to anybody?
Right.
Work together. If you don't do your part of the assignment and you don't do your part of the assignment, then we'll call your parents.
Yeah.
Then we'll let the parents know what's going on. So what do you want to do? You want to tell mom and dad? Or do you want to assignment done and get along?
Right. And really, and I'm a mom and a grandmother and a great grandmother. And so I've witnessed the change in our schools from when I went to school, when we had discipline in schools.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I went to school, if you didn't get a C or above, you couldn't be in sports, right? Because sports is a privilege.
It's a privilege.
Right. And, and if you got in trouble, parents were called, you went home, you got in trouble from your parents. Now, I didn't get in trouble from my parents, but we had a babysitter who took care of us, and she was mean as all get out, and she'd chase us with a fly swatter and on our bare legs. I didn't get in trouble very often, but my brother was in trouble all the time. But yeah, back when I went to school, there was discipline. You respected your teachers. If you were disrespectful to your teachers, you came home and you got in big trouble, right? Now, like, it's a free for all. They're so afraid to discipline and to hold people accountable that you can get like an F and still be in sports. How is that a privilege, right? How is that teaching us to earn something and to be responsible for ourselves? It isn't. And it just, I remember going to school in middle school with my son, and he would do his homework. He wouldn't hand it in, but he'd take tests and he'd get A's because, he's perfectly capable, but he just didn't want to hand in his paperwork, right? And I'd go to the principal every year, these 3 years he was in middle school, and say, I would like for you to hold him back because I don't think he's learning that he has to be responsible, right? He'd be like, oh, don't worry, the light bulb will come on, the light bulb will come on. And I'm like, I didn't believe him, but I'm like, okay, if you say, like, you're the educator, you're supposed to know more than me, right?
Yeah.
By the time he got in high school, he got to junior, he quit school. Right. Now, this is a bright child. He was perfectly capable. And today he's doing well. But it's like, what did we teach him? We taught him he could get away without being responsible. And that is going on all the time. It has been going on for 30 years.
Yes.
And it's very frustrating to sit and watch.
It is. It is. See, I teach my children. I try to teach them, especially the things that I see that there's a problem out in the world, if that makes sense. Right. The things that I had to learn late, I try to teach them early to their level of understanding.
Right.
And one thing that I teach them is becoming an adult is not about doing what you want to do, but it's about doing exactly what you don't want to do all the time when you don't want to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Because we don't want to work all the time. We want to go have fun all the time, right?
Okay. I tell them that. But more importantly, a man has to be accountable for their actions.
Yes.
And at all costs. I'm going to support my children to the bitter end, but understand this, they will be held accountable for their actions.
Yes. And that's what's missing.
Yeah.
And that's what's missing in society. That's what's missing in our relationships. Women as a whole are not taught to hold someone else accountable and or walk away if they're going to treat us bad. We're taught to stay. We're supposed to keep our family together. We're supposed to try to fix things. We're supposed to change ourselves so that we can make the relationship work. But the truth is, it takes two people to make a relationship work. And, if you don't know how to resolve conflicts in a healthy way, then you both need to go learn how to. Because my ex-husband, my second husband, who was toxic, abusive, he would always tell me, well, I just don't know how to fight fair. I don't know how to fight, like, in a nice way. And I'm like, well, that's your job to go figure it out, because I was always trying to teach him how to do it, because it's like, okay, I want to, but his way was to win, right? That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to win the argument at all costs, no matter how bad he made me feel. No matter how he had to threaten me, bring up old things from the past, just berate me for things I didn't actually do, but that he was mad about. And so it's just so important to recognize when we're being treated like that, that's not okay. It's not healthy. And we need to, when those conversations happen, we have to walk away. But it's so scary to walk away because we're afraid of how much more angry that, our spouse or our boyfriend will be. And so that's kind of what I help my clients with, is helping them build the skills to navigate those conflicts so that they can, get away, or, maybe leave the house, or whatever you have to do to protect your peace, because they don't have a right to treat you like that ever. I don't care. There's nothing you can ever do that justifies someone abusing you.
And one thing that I do, that I teach people to do, is to get quiet.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything, okay? Because women are often accused of verbal abuse, antagonizing, right? Manipulating, right? And he uses this as an excuse. So over the years, I've learned to just be quiet. Two things. I'm not trying to provoke this man to do anything to me. If he chooses to do it, he's going to make a conscious decision. And I know that I didn't do anything to warrant this behavior. That's just one. And two, when you know the power of your words, you are very particular about the words that you use.
Right.
Like we were talking about on the show yesterday. I know that when I'm at my highest emotion, that I can say things that I can regret.
Right.
And again, I know the power of the words. And this is my mate, this person that I've chosen to be with. I don't ever want to say the wrong thing to break him down. Right?
Right.
So I just get quiet.
Yeah.
I never get quiet though, what a lot of people mistake, and try to ignore the situation. You get what I'm saying? Because whoever created the situation, it created the situation. And if we're going to stay together, it has to be discussed and resolved.
Right.
Right?
Right. And a lot of times that's the problem. Nothing gets resolved because you can't have a conversation with an abuser because they're not open to learning. They don't care about your side of the conversation. And we get triggered into trying to explain, defend, and justify, so that because they're in the wrong, right? They're making up the stuff, or they're making a big deal out of something that really shouldn't be that huge of a deal. And so one of the, that's really, really an important skill, is to learn to just be like, oh, I feel like responding, I feel like defending myself. But what I really need to do is just not say a single word and let him just kind of suffer in his pain, because when they're angry, yelling, or silent, whatever they're doing, silent treatment, they're trying to get energy from us, right? And they're trying to release their anger and their pain. So if we just don't say anything, well, then we let them suffer and learn how to deal with their own pain, their own anger, their own stuff. And we go inside and be like, don't take it personal. This isn't mine. This doesn't belong to me. This belongs to him. This is his stuff. This isn't my stuff.
But ladies, it's a trick to that, walking away too. Because correct me if I'm wrong, the mind can do way more than what the words can do, than what your actions can do. So saying nothing could be, that's a slippery slope too. So be mindful of your actions when you are walking away. Right.
Right. Never say, oh, F you and walk
Uh-huh.
away. Right.
Uh-huh.
Don't say you're an a-hole and walk away. Just look at him and just walk away without a word.
Or ignore them and then pick your phone up. This is what the battle is now. Now
Right.
it goes to who's in your phone, who you texting,
Right.
who you calling. So I
Right.
just simply sit right there, whatever I was doing. I'm full attention.
Right. And so sometimes you can just excuse yourself. I'm going to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to the other room. I'm going to go read a book, or,
Mm-hmm.
like you can tell them something you're going to do, but
Mm-hmm.
don't blame them,
Yeah.
even though their behavior is the problem and they're to blame for their behavior. The
Mm-hmm.
best thing we can do is keep our peace within ourselves, because that irritates them more than anything, right?
What?
Because now they don't have control of us anymore. When we're
Oh,
not
baby.
upset, they don't have control, right?
When I learned that, and again, that is very, very, very slippery. That's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Because then they'll do things and some might even swing
Yes.
to get you to react.
Yes, they will. I can remember when I first started setting really strong boundaries with my second husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in 3 toxic relationships. So I was married to my first husband, I was engaged, and then I was with my second husband for almost over 22 years. But when I would set a boundary and refuse to engage in the crazy making,
Mm-hmm.
he got more and more angry, right? Because now he didn't have control of me. I had control of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really have to be prepared for that. Like, go for a drive, call
Yes.
someone to come and help you,
Yes.
go in a room and lock the door. Fortunately for me, he wasn't a physical abuser.
Mm-hmm.
But my ex-fiance was a physical abuser. And so, yeah, they can, if their tendency is to physically abuse you, I'm going to tell you, you need to get out of the relationship. You
Mm-hmm.
can't even heal while you're in it, because there's no space, right? It's never safe to be able to even set those boundaries with a physical abuser.
Yes.
But yes, walk away without saying anything, walk away with, the intention of, I'm not going to participate in this crazy with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I told somebody before, because I did it myself. That's how I transitioned out of my relationship when it was abusive.
Yeah.
I moved out. I went back a couple times. But see, there's a certain clarity when you bring in chaos into your house.
Yeah.
And when this person is not there, it's peaceful.
Yes.
Until one day I said, I don't want to do this no more. When you're not here, I'm peaceful. Why am I doing this? Now, at this point, I just have to take accountability for my actions.
Right.
I have to take accountability for my actions if you're allowed to do that.
Right. And that's one of the things that's empowering, is that we've learned to give responsibility of ourselves away. We've learned to give our power away. We've been trained to that other people know more than us, or that we're supposed to, surrender to their power or whatever. But the truth is, when we take our power back, when we take responsibility for our part of the cycle, because we're in a cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're part of the cycle because we're trauma bonded, because there's cognitive dissonance, because we've had that pattern in childhood or a prior relationship. But definitely we're part of it because we're still in it. That's why we're part of it. Like, we're not to blame for their behavior in any way, shape, or form. We're not to blame for the abuse, but we're part of the cycle because we're choosing, even on an unconscious level, to stay and to try to fight for it, right?
We're choosing.
We're unconsciously choosing. And so when we start to choose and take our power back and say, what is my part in this toxicity? What is my part in this cycle? My part is walking on eggshells. My part is trying to keep him happy. My part is dealing with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when he shows up, right? My part is continuing the argument with him by trying to explain, defend, or get him to understand where I'm coming from. So when we take those pieces of the power back and we take responsibility for ourselves, and we start understanding that our job is to love ourselves first above everyone else in a healthy way, and start rebuilding our self-esteem, start rebuilding all the things that have been taken from us, so that now we are in a place to decide, is this a healthy relationship for me or not? Because if you change and he doesn't change, that's not going to be healthy. It's
Let
not
me
going to be livable.
let me tell you. I would wait first before I get to that. Sammy Sam said, "Hi, would you say most domestic abusers have narcissistic traits?" Before we answer that, let me say what I was going to say. Um, it had gotten so bad with my last relationship. It wasn't abusive, but it was mental. It
Which
was
is abusive.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't physical abuse.
Yeah.
Because I absolutely believe that if you play with my mind, it is abuse. I
Yeah.
absolutely honor my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. But let me say this. I recorded a conversation that we had. Didn't even realize, believe it or not, that I had recorded this conversation until 30 days after we had broken up. And I listened to it. And even though I'm a public speaker, I don't like to listen to myself speak. So I won't listen to my videos, audios, or anything, believe it or not. I'm driving in my car and I listened to this tape, and I just had to send it to my brother and sister in my bed. I said, y'all, listen to this. This is a narcissist at his finest, and he clearly had no respect for my mind or me.
Right.
Although he wasn't calling me a bitch, he wasn't hitting on me,
Right.
he wasn't stealing my money, he wasn't cheating on me.
Right.
See, it's some narcissists that are truly just in it for them, and they learn to play this game and manipulate you so that you can feel like you stand apart from the other people. Would you tell them?
Yes. Narcissist, we all think of narcissists as this egocentric, really outgoing person. I'm better than everyone else. But there's also covert narcissists. There's malignant narcissists. There's all kinds of narcissists. And their behavior is just a little bit different, where you can't really define, are they a narcissist or not? Because let's face it, no one is abusive 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there's always time in between the abuse where, we feel loved and cared about. Right. And so the thing about a lot of the narcissists is that the abuse is very insidious. It's very manipulative. It's very controlling. And it's in such a way that we don't realize that's what we're experiencing. And to answer Sammy's question, yes, all abusers are narcissistic on some level. Some people will try to say you can have an abuser without narcissist, but that's not possible, because an abuser wouldn't be an abuser if he had empathy and could self-reflect and see that he's hurting another person. So yes, I'm going to say everyone who abuses is on the spectrum of a narcissist, but there's narcissistic behavior, and then there's narcissistic personality disorder. So, and there's a whole spectrum in between of the different types of narcissists that there are. And so it's so hard to put your fingers on, is this person a narcissist? And what I always say, and I just recently did a video on it, is it doesn't matter. We don't need to put a label or a name on someone. If someone is treating us bad, that's all we have to know. If we feel like we're walking on eggshells, if we feel like we don't trust ourselves, if we feel invisible, if we feel broken, those are enough to know the relationship isn't healthy.
That is enough to know. I was waiting for you to finish talking, because I swear to you, I was going to say that. That is my mantra. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Don't hurt my feelings.
Yes.
If you hurt my feelings, I am done. I don't try to define what hurt my feelings are. And when I say hurt my feelings, I say intentionally. Because somebody can hurt your feelings really and don't really know, and it could really be a conversation. But we're talking about intentionally cheating, intentionally disrespecting me, intentionally doing things that I've told you that I'm healing from.
Yes. And that's the thing we have to recognize, because so many women, and I did it too, we have the tendency to make these excuses, right? Oh, he had a bad day. Oh, I said something that upset him.
Yes.
Oh, whatever. But the truth is, if you've told someone one time that something they have done has hurt you and they don't change, they are intentionally abusing you, period. It's not on accident. It's not because they had a bad day. It's not because their mom's mad at them. It's not because they lost that pool or they got fired at work or they had a bad day. It's because they're intentionally abusing you. Because if you tell someone they're hurting you, like a healthy person, like if someone told us we are hurting them, we would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. What did I do?
Instantly.
How can I make it right? Right.
Yes.
An abuser is like, you made me angry.
Yes.
You caused my anger. You
Yes.
didn't get the laundry done. You didn't do the,
Or
whatever.
no, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Anything. Yeah. It's always, no, I didn't. Oh, I didn't yell at you. What are you talking about? I'm not angry with you.
I used to tell my ex all the time, I said, I am trying to get you to understand that it's not what you meant, it's how I received it.
Yes.
I'm trying to tell you that hurts me. I'm a firm believer that if I tell you that there's something wrong and you don't change it, you don't care to.
Right.
You just don't care to. I don't make no other excuse. I made sure that you knew what it was. I made sure that we had a clear understanding, because one thing that I normally say before I became a Toastmaster is, after I make a statement, it's, do you understand?
Right.
Before I go any further, let's get to the first bullet point. Do you understand?
Right.
You understand? My kids, I just did it. It's like I have to make sure we get a clear understanding. So if you say later on when you do this, now I know that it was intentional because we made sure. And then I can hit you back with the, but you said,
right.
You understand.
Right. And, what's typical for an abuser is that they will promise to change, but they won't take action.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say that they're going to go to counseling, but they won't really go. Or if they go, they tell some outlandish, crazy stories, or they blame you, or they twist things around. So, I mean, what I experienced for me was that I was in denial of the truth, right? I wasn't willing to really face the truth of what was going on, because to do that, I had to leave the relationship, and I didn't want to leave the relationship. I wanted to stay with the man who I fell in love with, who I could, showed up from time to time, but most of the time he wasn't there. And we get caught in that, right? We don't see it always. And then, we just don't see it. And it's hard to see it because they purposely confuse us to make us feel like, oh, it isn't really that bad. They aren't really doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, like they can tell you XYZ in 1 minute, 2 minutes later, they're going to be like, oh, I never said that.
Oh my God, that happened
crazy.
That happened on the recording, because in the end.
Yes, I used to record too. If you're recording, that's a sign you're in an unhealthy relationship.
Say it again. Because in the end, when you really feel like that you really love this person and you really been giving this person grace, so you really don't understand, isn't it like having an out-of-body experience? So you be like, let me record it, because I know I used to say it all the time, like, you just said, no, I didn't say. Or if he couldn't lie about saying it, like if we had people around, it was like, now you being literal. I didn't mean.
Yes.
Child.
They are just like experts at twisting around the truth, gaslighting, making you just doubt yourself and feel like you are absolutely a crazy person, right?
You know what gets men caught up for me. Okay. I learn fast. Say it again. I learn fast. I especially learn me fast. So when somebody throws something, gaslighting is what we're talking about. When somebody is throwing something at me, I instantly fix it.
Yeah.
I could know 100%. I could know 100% that is BS. But because I am who I am, I revisit even my own decision. Was this a good situation? Am I projecting my past off onto him? Right?
Right.
So then once next one, it wasn't me. It was you, because I fixed that. I made sure that never happened again.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And that's very typical because they get us to a place where we're just always second guessing ourselves and questioning, like, maybe it's me. Maybe I still have stuff to work on. Maybe this, maybe that. Right. And I mean, I can remember one time thinking, am I like in an alternative universe, or am I on drugs or something, or is somebody drugging me and I don't know what's going on in my life? Like, I mean, I literally thought I was going crazy.
I did too.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, what was bad was that my mother had just died.
Oh, geez.
I'm going to say it again. My mother had just died. So I am knowing inside, I am losing my mind. We know this. Anybody that knows me knows 100%. I was going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I didn't understand. I was supposed to understand. I didn't understand.
It's a hard time.
It is a very hard time when you lose your mother.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And I tell people to this day, because I thought that was my end. It was it, fairy tale. I'm in love. It's happening.
Yeah, my mom loved my third husband. Our second husband. Haven't had 3 yet, but yeah, she loved him. She thought he was the greatest thing. Like, okay.
But you don't really understand, because love is truly blind.
Yes.
And I say all the time that if my mother had not died, I will probably be in this situation, because now that I think that I'm losing my mind, now that I know that I'm a strong energy type of person, now I'm evaluating my energy, because I don't want to hurt the people around me, because the people around me are hurting. Right?
Yes.
And I'm like, when I figured out that it was all a mental game, and I'm speaking for me. I'm speaking for me.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't understand why I left this relationship. For me, it felt like the worst betrayal. For somebody to play with your mind,
it's huge.
That's worse than a slap. If you can control my mind, you can strategically tell me to kill myself, kill my kids, leave my job, hurt my loved ones, do something in society that's going to wreck my life. You understand mind control? So I'm like, oh.
But well, and that happens because we don't have boundaries. We haven't set our values. We're not clear on what we want because we're codependent, trying to get love from the outside in instead of being full on the inside and knowing exactly what we want and what we will tolerate in a relationship and what we won't. And so those are really, really important skills to develop. Whether you're in any kind of unhealthy relationship or any relationship, right? Because that's going to guide your relationship. It's going to guide if you get what you want, and it's going to help you discern, is this person good for me? Do our values line up?
And when I found out, I need to read the comments in a minute. When I figured it out and I listened to that tape, the tape was a 30-minute audio tape. Do you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I had listened to that audio tape probably 60 times in 1 month, if not before. And all my friends and family, they were laughing at me and they was thinking like, maybe I'm missing him and I get to. I said, no. There is some teaching in this audio. And I am going to
learn it.
I swear to you, I'm going to learn this lesson. That it won't ever happen again.
Yes.
That it won't ever happen again. That comes with knowing yourself.
Right. And that goes to the boundaries and the values, right? We can't know ourselves if we don't know what those things are to us. Not someone else's idea, but what they are to us.
Absolutely. Let's see what Sammy says. Sammy Sam, are abusers suffer from childhood trauma where they abuse themselves? I think so.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Most,
think
most of them are, and they're acting out. They're acting out of pain,
mm-hmm,
but they've developed such a false self in childhood. So,
mm-hmm,
like when you're abused in childhood, you will usually either go to a narcissistic way of living, or
mm-hmm,
going
mm-hmm,
to a false self because it's so painful to deal with your feelings,
mm-hmm.
or you'll become an empath if
Yeah.
you're naturally set up for that,
Mm-hmm.
because then you can focus on other people instead of taking care of yourself because the pain is so great, right? So really a narcissist and an empath are at the same wounded levels from
Mm-hmm.
childhood. It's just they both responded differently of how they dealt with it.
Yes.
And the problem with a narcissist is they have no ability to self-reflect,
Mm-hmm.
so they can't heal.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas an empath has a great ability to self-reflect, almost too much, right? Because we're like, oh gosh, we're to blame for everything. Let's fix everything and everyone. Um,
And a childhood trauma, let's clarify this. A childhood trauma could very well be the first little girl that he fell in love with didn't love him.
right. It could, right. Trauma is funny how we all deal with trauma better or
Mm-hmm.
differently, because we're all genetically set up a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And our ability to deal with rejection, abandonment, pain, and our helpless feelings, our powerlessness, our disappointments, like we all deal with those things differently. And so, yeah, I think a lot of abusers have had bad childhoods, like really, truly traumatic. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, sometimes it can just be, their parents are mad at them because they didn't get an A on a test, right? So to them, that can be traumatizing.
Yeah.
Usually it's going to be a bigger trauma than that to create the need to go into self-protect mode, which is what it's all about, right?
Yeah. And it's funny because that is the exact word that I said for my last relationship. When I had that aha moment, I said he was just surviving.
Yes, they really are.
This
They
wasn't
really are.
wasn't real for him at all. So when people ask me, "Well, do you miss him?" I said, "How can you miss somebody that was using you?"
No, you miss the person you fell in love with, but you don't miss the person who he really is, because that person was a pretend person or on his best behavior or whatever you want to
And I
call
don't
it.
even miss that person because to me it was fake. So
Right. It wasn't real. Right.
it
It
wasn't
wasn't
even real. The whole thing was an illusion.
right.
It was an illusion. And when
Right.
we are able to step into that power,
Yes.
because what's true is true. And when a man truly loves you, because I'm a daddy's girl. So
Mhm.
when a man truly loves you, it is an unimaginable feeling. That man will literally give his life to protect you. He won't say words to discourage you. You will be like a porcelain china doll. He's not going to lash out. It's not going to be one mistake. It's not going to be. Let me tell you how I know this. With not only being a daddy's girl, I worked in a psychiatric field for 3.5 years. Okay. And we had a kid that was there that had the what is it? Is it the Jeffrey Dahmer trait? Did you hear that? Is it it's
I
the
haven't
Jeffrey?
heard that. Yeah, I haven't heard that.
It's one of the other serial killers.
Right.
However, most dangerous kid in the facility over the history of the facility. We loved on this baby so much, okay, that he would go into a rage because his voices was telling him to hurt us.
Yes.
Ain't that something?
Yeah. It's
That's what
really
love really does.
right. When love hurts when you're a kid, it's hard to believe that love doesn't hurt when you're an adult. But
Yes.
yeah, when a child is exposed to, that kind of abuse where love hurts that badly,
Mhm.
like that's overwhelming, right?
It's overwhelming, but more importantly, that if you can change somebody with just loving on them, right?
Right, but you can't change someone with just loving them.
No,
because,
I'm not saying that. I'm
but
saying
a
that
child
this
possibly.
child
Yeah.
that was that dangerous, and because he loved us, he was restraining himself from hurting us, right? I'm
Right.
saying that to say that when your man really loves you, he's not
Right.
going to hurt you.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me. I was just watching church the other night, and it was really empowering what this guy said, because he was talking about the difference between men and women, and this conversation about, the man not understanding the woman, and, just all these different things. But what he said was, a man who loves you, in essence, he'll be angry, he'll get angry, but he will step back and shut down because he doesn't want to hurt you and treat you bad.
Yes.
As opposed to someone who's abusive, that's not their normal reaction. Their reaction is to lash out and to hurt you because they're hurting in some way. But a healthy man, he's going to step back and be like, oh, I need to gather myself because I don't want to damage my wife, my girlfriend, the person that I love. I don't want to create animosity in this relationship. So I need to take a time out and figure me out. Right. And that's the thing. A man who really loves you will bring peace and calm into your life. A man who abuses you will bring chaos and confusion. So if you're experiencing chaos and confusion, you're in an abusive relationship.
I said it. I'm gonna say the last thing about my life because I want you to tell everybody how they can follow you, because everybody's asking. But I said it. I said, if my peace was not disturbed, he could have gotten away with it for a lot longer.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing to get me to respond the way that you want me to respond, I suggest you continue.
Yeah.
Because if you stop, then now you're going to shake up my peace, because whatever I'm doing to get you to respond, you're doing it. So that brings me a certain level of peace.
Yeah.
Right. But okay, people don't understand that. But Tracy May, can you tell everybody what it is that you do, your coaching program, what it is that you have to offer?
Yes. So I am a foremost expert in toxic love, narcissistic abuse, and trauma recovery. I am a love and relationship coach, an author, and a speaker. I overcame adversity in a childhood full of trauma and abuse, and I'm a domestic abuse survivor turned thriver. And I freed myself of the limiting beliefs and programming that kept me stuck in my third toxic relationship for over 20 years while I was still in that relationship. So I did my healing. I didn't leave first. And that was a lot. That was really hard. And I don't really encourage people to do it, but sometimes that's what you got to do, or you might want to do for various reasons.
I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I empower women who feel desperate, broken, and invisible, helpless in their relationship to feel lovable, inspired. And there's another word, but I forgot it. But anyways, I help them break through their self-limiting beliefs and their toxic patterns to go from barely surviving to thriving to designing the life they dream of. I co-authored a book called Entangled No More: Women Who Broke Free from Toxic Relationships, Building Their Empires. And that's available on Amazon, or I am going to be selling signed copies. So if you want my signature, that'd be great. But if you don't, you can get it on Amazon. I am a Success 125 Most Impactful Leader nominee in 2022, and I'm an executive contributor in Brains Magazine. And I support women through private, one-on-one, or group coaching with my Rise and Heal and Thrive program to feel free to be yourselves, enjoy life, have more connection, more fun, and more intimacy. You can reach me at www.fiercelyempowered.com. That's my website. There's a link on there to go to have a free breakthrough session to heal your heart. There's some free resources there. You can also go to www.giftfromtracymay.com. And that's a checklist for 15 red flags to know for sure if you're with a narcissist. So I encourage you to check that out to see.
I want to check that out.
And I'm on Instagram under Break Free from Toxic Love. I have a TikTok handle, and everywhere. Facebook. I have a private Facebook group for any women that want to break free.
Do you do podcasting? Do you got a podcast?
I do not have a podcast yet. That's on my agenda. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I am going to be speaking at the Women's Thrive Summit in March of 23. So I'm super excited about that. And I'm going to be speaking at a Tag Talks event in January. And Tag Talks is, what does TAG stand for? Sorry, my brain just kind of went blank there. But it's for authentic growth. So it's all about, being connected to yourself, healing, and that's really what I help people with, is just inner bonding with their child inside that never got the love that they needed, hearing the wounded part of you that's really kind of driving your life and keeping you stuck in this cycle of a toxic relationship, and helping you to navigate, how to heal yourself so then you can make a good decision to stay or go.
Whew. It's a lot. Well, thank you so much for giving us your Sunday, Jesus, your Wednesday night. I'm so used to doing Sunday.
It's been a long week for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, because but I'm a creature of habit. So it's funny, I said in January I was gonna start going live every day of the week.
Okay. Oof.
So it's just,
that's a lot.
But it's so healing for me.
Yeah.
It's so I look forward to it. It's healing. Yeah. It's healing for me.
It's always healing to talk about our experience and to share, because, for me, I really want to help women break free, right? My mission is to eradicate abuse in relationships, one woman at a time. So, that's really I feel like that's been my life purpose. Yes. Like I've been a coach for a few years. I was an entrepreneur for a lot of years before that. But I feel like my whole life, my childhood and all my toxic relationships have really led me to my gift of coaching and spreading the word around hidden abuse and helping women be able to tell that they are experiencing it, right? Because sometimes something just feels off, but we can't quite figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you again. You are so amazing. We are gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to do this again, because I see just go all night. So you have a great night, and we're gonna stay connected. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, let's stay connected. I just thank you so much for having me on and for your podcast and your mission. I just love that, and being aligned with other women who are also on this mission just, means the world to me. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Have an amazing night.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, guys, make sure that you guys are following her. Make sure you're following her and you stay connected. She has a wealth of information for you guys. Make sure that you guys tune in tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central. We will be doing our 5th episode of Shining Light on Domestic Violence. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.